So Ron DeSantis has decided to drop out of the presidential race. I said after the results of Iowa that the candidate most likely to drop out was Ron DeSantis. After, of course, Vivek dropped out, but I mean, we all saw that coming. Because I looked for the path forward for Ron, and he didn't really have anywhere to go in New Hampshire. He didn't have a chance in winning that. He didn't have anywhere to go in South Carolina. He didn't have anywhere to go anywhere. The odds is he was going to get to his own state of Florida and lose. And he came barely in second in Iowa, and he was going to come in third in New Hampshire. So he looked at the writing on the wall, and I think he was like, you know what? Everybody was right. Should have waited till 2028. I'm dropping out and endorsing Donald J. Trump. Now, I do want to remind you guys that one of the opening salvos of this campaign was Donald J. Trump suggesting that Ron DeSantis molested his students. I just want to throw that out there, that this is a Ted Cruz phone banking moment. When you realize exactly what Donald Trump has been. You guys don't remember this. You guys don't remember when he said that about his students? Look it up. It was on Truth Social. He even posted pictures of him with the students to suggest it. Saying, oh, was he drinking with the students and doing the hanky-panky? It was not great stuff. Point is, Donald Trump was ruthless with Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis' response was, we need to defend Trump. Make me president so I can defend Trump while in office. It's the same problem Vivek ran into, but to a lesser extent. When you're the simp for Donald Trump, and running against Donald Trump, it's a hard pitch. Hey, the greatest president of our generation that I should replace. It's not a good pitch. And Ron DeSantis, just like the rest of them, even if it was a little less, refused to throw punches at Donald Trump. If you refuse to throw punches at Donald Trump while you're running against him, then you should have waited till 2028 until you're willing to challenge the front runner. Just like Kamala Harris was willing to challenge Joe Biden, Tulsi Gabbard was willing to challenge Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders was willing to challenge Joe Biden. And then when you look at early states like Iowa, New Hampshire, first state won by Pete Buttigieg, second state won by Bernie. Odds are we're not going to have that in this case. It's just going to be a clean right-wing Trump sweep. Well, there's going to be a right-wing sweep no matter what. It's Republican primary. Point is, though, it's hard to run against somebody that you're adamant is an amazing, amazing, amazing president. Let's look at his dropout message.
Greetings from Florida. The warmth of being home is a reminder why I've chosen public service. From joining the United States Navy and serving in Iraq to representing the people in the U.S. Congress.
Is it just impossible? I think a big reason why he failed too was people looked at Florida and they were, oh, look at Florida. I hear he's big over there. And they hadn't actually seen Ron DeSantis on the national stage. The polling data around him was pretty good. But then when people got to know him, his polling data crashed. And then the head-to-head Ron DeSantis versus Biden matchups, those crashed too. And so I think when that happened, he lost a lot of his leverage. Just that he's not that likable on the national stage. That doesn't mean the Republican base doesn't like him. And it's kind of hard to pin down the issue of likability, but I mean, it's not hard to see that the guy's a little stale.
And now serving as governor of Florida. And it reminds me why I decided to run for president, to fight for those who have been forgotten in this country. This is America's time for choosing. We can choose to allow a border invasion, or we can choose to stop it. We can choose reckless borrowing and spending, or we can choose to limit government and lower inflation. We can choose political indoctrination, or we can choose classical education. These choices are symptoms of the underlying struggle to ensure that constitutional government can endure and that Western civilization can survive. And we launched this campaign to bring accountability to government, regain sovereignty at our border, and restore sanity to our society.
Restore sanity.
We cannot
That's a great policy. I'm pro sanity too.
Succeed.
Unlike Bernie, he was pro insanity, I assume, I guess.
As a country, if we allow our nation.
Can we start the insanity coalition in Congress?
To be invaded, our currency to be debased, our cities to crumble, and our kids to be indoctrinated. The DC elites who facilitated this mess do not care about you.
Jesus Christ, even his dropout message is boring. Can we just hear him say dropout? I don't want to
see it again as a nation. Nobody worked harder, and we left it all out on the field. Now, following our second place finish in Iowa, we've prayed and deliberated on the way forward.
Thank you.
If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using...
And they know this time that won't happen because... Why? You know, that's politics, right? When you try to pass laws and regulate, do things, and they're not liked by the other party would try to stop you like they're doing in the House right now. That's not going to change once he gets in there. Like, this is the thing that's interesting about the deal, the Senate deal, the border deal that the Senate's trying to negotiate. This is, for Republican priorities, this is the best deal they're probably going to be offered during the Biden administration. If Trump gets in office, though, and this is what the far righters, like the Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Matt Gaetz, they seem to be pushing for, they don't want a deal on Ukraine aid. They want to disregard Ukraine aid and just reintroduce H.R. 2, which is a Trump-era policy. But the problem is the stuff that is being agreed to and that you need 60 votes in the Senate for, you're not going to be able to get 60 votes. You're not going to be able to get 60 votes. You're just not going to be able to get 60 votes if you do not make the deal and then wait until the Democrats are out of office, because the Democrats will just reject it. The only reason the Democrats are even agreeing to the things they're agreeing in the deal right now is because the Republicans are leveraging America's national security. They're leveraging our aid to Ukraine. And so that's the only reason they're going to be able to get it through. So if they just wait until Trump's president, they won't be able to get it through then because they've lost all the leverage. And the Democrats are no longer in office. They don't have an incentive to make a deal with you. So I just want to throw out there that if the deal isn't accepted and Trump gets in there, there's still going to be resistance. He's still going to be blocked in things. He doesn't just get to become king.
Lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had
lawfare, and he never used the Justice Department to go after anyone he didn't like. He never leveraged aid to try to get information on his political opponents from our allies. He did nothing. He's just a little baby. When he breaks the wall, he was the president. He could break the wall if he wants. Why he's just so cute. If he wants to show random reporters classified invasion plans, that's his right. He's right. He's president. He can do whatever. Rape, kill, murder. He's president. By the way, if we take the Trump conclusion on immunity to its logical conclusion, we're done listening to Ron DeSantis. Who gives a fuck about Ron DeSantis? He dropped out. By the way, this is where it all failed. If anybody's curious where Ron DeSantis, when did it all go wrong? Here you go. It was this live room. I don't know if you guys remember. I'll just leave this for the people who do remember the live room. But it was this Twitter space that was the beginning of the end. Just crashing and I'm not being able to join the call. So everybody waited. What a disaster. What an absolute disaster. But speaking about Donald Trump for a moment. One second. Where is his stance on... yes, here's his stance on immunity.
Go back to being a country of law and order. Have to do it. And you will have, very seldom, but you will have the rogue, we call it the rogue cop, the bad apple, and perhaps you'll have that also with President. But there's nothing you can do about that. You're going to have to give the president, you're going to have to allow a president, any president, to have immunity so that that president can act and do what he feels and what his group of advisors feel is the absolute right thing. Otherwise, you're going to have presidents that are totally impotent. And we've had enough of them already. So having immunity is so important. And I hope the Supreme Court has the courage to do that, because otherwise you're just not going to be in a very strong position very long. It'll totally change.
Okay, if this is, by the way, if we accept this, I'm just going to throw this out there, and I'm just going to be as blunt as possible. If what Trump says, what he wants comes to be the case, that means the president can do whatever the fuck he wants, as long as he says, I'm the president, I can do it. And then there's no consequences we can bring him to. If the president illegally accessed Americans' private information, nothing we can do. If a president started a war illegally, nothing we can do. If a president was to do anything against the law, there's nothing we could do. Now, let's take this to its logical conclusion. And, you know, I like the, you know, I'll say I'm part of the Biden Al-Qaeda wing. You know, I'm an ultra mega Bidenist. I'm a radical, and I want to take advantage of this opportunity that Trump's laying out. Let's say the Supreme Court says tomorrow that the president is immune from all laws. What could stop Biden from just hiring an assassin to kill Trump? Boom, I'm president. I can do whatever the fuck I want. What are you gonna do? Arrest me because I killed Trump? Is what it is. Obviously that's stupid. It's a terrible idea. This on its face, we can see how this immediately fails. That the president can do whatever the fuck he wants. But that's his policy. And why is it Trump's policy? Because he's facing 91 charges and he doesn't want to see a day behind bars. And he doesn't want to be declared that he can't be president because he broke the law and is a felon. That's why he wants it to be the law of the land. He is choosing himself over the future security of the executive branch of the United States. What a lovely guy. Dylan is a real Biden lover, a bisexual, if you will. By the way, 1 second. I want to show you what, by the way, what I'm saying here isn't even like, oh, Dylan, you have the crazy radical left-wing position. If you ask Republicans this, they will also admit, fine, yes, the president shouldn't be immune. Because they know if Biden wins re-election, and they were all saying the president should be immune, the president should be immune. And if they find anything that Biden actually did wrong, let's say they found out that Joe Biden right now gave Hunter Biden like $20 billion of American money. Just like he just take it straight out of our reserves, just gave it right to him. And then like, that's obviously illegal. I'm the president, I can do whatever I want. This could easily blow up in their face. And just the campaign ads of different Republicans along with the president saying the president should be immune. He could commit any crime. It's not great on the campaign trail. It's not great. Watch this right-wing Republican squirm when put under heat about whether or not the president can be declared immune from all crimes, immune from all prosecution.
The court has the courage to do that.
Do you agree, should a president have total immunity even for things that cross the line?
Of course not. The amazing thing about that clip is he was dead serious. He wasn't even making one of his ridiculous jokes. He was dead serious about that, and that should get everybody. I don't care what political party you're from, whether you're an extreme conservative or socialist liberal, everybody should.
Now, he's a Republican from New Hampshire. New Hampshire Republicans are generally more moderate. Chris Christie actually polled his highest in New Hampshire. I saw one poll had him at like 11% there, which, I mean, he was like 1%. To 2 to 3% generally in the Republican primary. So it shows New Hampshire Republicans are generally more moderate.
We should be concerned with that type of mentality going into the White House.
And yet you are saying if he is the nominee, that you are going to support him. How can you say that you'll support him?
At the end of the day, I think most Republicans are going to get behind the Republican nominee. I'm hoping
that's not a defense for you, though.
That it's obviously Nikki Haley. This is how bad Joe Biden is. 6 months ago, Trump couldn't beat Biden. This is how bad Joe Biden is. Inflation is crushing middle and lower.
Okay, let's just throw this out there for a moment. He just declares openly that, yes, it's awful for a president to say seriously that he should be able to do whatever he wants with no prosecution, completely immune from being held accountable. He acknowledges openly that that should be terrifying for the United States. But then immediately he's like, but he's a Republican. This is choosing party over country. I just want to, if you can acknowledge how scary it is for someone to be like, give me the most powerful job in the world and make it so that no one can hold me to account. No laws, no judges, no courts, no one. Immune from all persecution. So I can do anything with the most powerful office in the world. Totally can't be abused at all. After he called for the suspension of the U.S. Constitution and for him to be installed as president. You know, I think this isn't just setting off an alarm bell. This is triggering the fucking air raid sirens, man. This is partisan.
income families across this country. We're weak on the international stage. We haven't secured our
Weak on the international stage. Let's be clear. If Trump gets in there, that does not increase our leverage against the Russians in Ukraine. Trump gets in there, that doesn't increase our leverage against the Houthis. Trump gets in there, it doesn't do any of that. In fact, we have foreign affairs pieces coming out talking about how Trump's potential election to the White House is allowing it so America's, I guess you could call foreign adversaries, even though I don't like the term, are planning in case if Trump gets reelected. And their planning is basically, we can wait until after the election because Trump will give us a better deal. Sergei Shoigu openly declared, the Russian defense minister, that the current plan is to wait until 2025. Why do you think that is? Just saying.
Our border, even Democrats have agreed that he's been completely incompetent and not on the ball there, so to say. So
that's I don't think that's what do you mean Democrats agree? I don't agree with that. What polling data says the majority of Democrats think that Biden's failing on the border? I don't have any evidence of that.
This is where we've come, where
there are some Democrats that think that, but we don't. I don't know what data he's talking about.
Joe Biden is so bad that even folks would get behind Donald Trump.
And yet you're saying that the comments by Donald Trump, everyone should be worried about that. You have said earlier that Trump's rhetoric and actions contributed to the January 6th insurrection. How can you support someone who you believe contributed to the insurrection?
We're here in New Hampshire in the first nation primary. No one's really thinking about the general election right now. If you want to be...
He's just dodging the question. He's dodging the question because he knows that New Hampshire Republicans are very uncomfortable with a lot of New Hampshire Republicans that he needs in order to be in that office, since a Democrat can possibly take his job in New Hampshire. He's not answering because he can't answer without some political damage being done to him. Because if he says, you know what, you're right, fuck him, while he's going to get the anti-Trump vote, and he might win over like a few and some more independents, that could have really hurt him with the Republican base in New Hampshire. If he does the other angle and is like, Trump is king, Trump is God, whatever, then he's going to lose the moderates, and that connection and connotation and connecting him with Trump is going to hurt him heavily in New Hampshire. Susan Collins have had to try to do this similar type of distancing. She's also from New Hampshire.
Donald Trump, it has to happen.
Wait, 1 second. United States Senator. I think it's New Hampshire. Maine, not New Hampshire, Maine.
At the ballot box. Don't sit on your couch. Don't wait for it to happen. Don't wait for some external factor or court case to take over. You got to get out and vote. Whether you're undeclared Republican, getting that vote out is how you beat it.
I like whether you're undeclared or a Republican, you need to get out there and vote. Oh, those are the two groups. Independents and Republicans, the two political factions within America.
It's democracy.
But despite all of these comments, despite his comments on immunity, despite what you said about the insurrection, you would still vote for Donald Trump in a general election against
according
Joe
to
Biden?
the polls, most of America would.
Well, that's not true. Even in the polls where Trump will winning, the majority of Americans are not voting for Trump. It would be like 43% Trump, 41%, 40% Biden. So don't say the majority of Americans voted for Trump. It's not true. I'll be happy if the majority of Americans fucking vote this election. Hope they do. The majority of Americans don't want Trump to be president. We know that. Keeps dodging, just keeps dodging again and again and again and again and again. By the way, here's a Fox segment on Trump's trial, possibly hurting him in the campaign. Actually, no, this guy doesn't say possibly. He says it will hurt him in the campaign, because even though he thinks it's bad that Trump is, seeing any court cases, at the end of the day, when people find out, like, let's talk, what law did he break when he paid off these hookers? It's just not going to help.
They're going to be litigating these cases in the court, and these indictments are going to ripen into convictions. And we're going to be talking about the finer points of whether you can pay a porn star with your campaign money or whether you should write it off as a business expense. I mean, the lawsuit itself is ridiculous, but the underlying facts aren't disputed. And I think people are going to kind of recoil from that when all that stuff starts coming out this summer. And the polls that show him beating Biden, those are going to switch very quickly.
Well, a lot of folks I talk to here who are Trump supporters saying he's their choice for Tuesday here in New Hampshire say all of those cases against him only made them double down in their support. We'll see if that continues as these do progress.
Yeah, for those who are going to vote for Trump no matter what, For the people who will vote for Trump, whether he rapes a woman live on TV, right? Like, no matter how bad he gets, those people, yeah, they're going to stick with Trump. But that's not going to be the people who decide the election. It'll be Midwestern wine mobs that decide the election. It'll be the suburbanite. The suburbanite that gave Biden victory last year will help decide the election. A lot of people will help decide the election, but it's not going to just be, you cannot just like completely just energize that base and just have them only win you the presidency. You need to appeal to people outside of that. But it could get more donations from them. I know that when these different cases come out against Trump, he does get increases in donations. At least it has some political benefit for him. So now that we know that Ron DeSantis dropped out and Trump's going to be having some problems with the court cases, now let's look at the last two people in the race for the Republican nomination, Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. So honestly, if you were to ask me 8 months ago, who would be the main competitor to Trump in the Republican primary, who would be the last woman, not man standing, feminism, yay, I wouldn't have said Nikki Haley. I wouldn't have thought it would be Nikki Haley, who is now polling at 36.6%, according to 538 in New Hampshire, while Trump is polling at 50%. Now, before the Iowa election, there was one poll that had Nikki Haley and Donald Trump neck to neck, 40-40. Now, this also included Ron DeSantis. This also included some other factors, some other people, but that's what it was. Now, that isn't the case anymore. It was getting pretty close, and I think it was getting pretty close because, as I said, New Hampshire Republicans are a little different. And Nikki Haley had been making the investments in New Hampshire. She has been making more campaign stops in New Hampshire than Donald Trump. But after Trump won Iowa, and now that Ron DeSantis has dropped out and endorsed Haley, and Vivek has dropped out and endorsed Haley, tomorrow's election in New Hampshire, and it is tomorrow, will be the last stand of Nikki Haley. If she does not win in New Hampshire or make it close enough to make people ask questions, if it's a 10-point gap as it currently looks like, according to 538 38 and other pollsters, then it's over. Whether or not she says it's over outside of a wild card. Now, the reason it is over is because everything past this, it'll be 2 Trump victories back to back, tons of momentum, endorsements from basically everybody else in the field. Those endorsements are only going to pile up more. I know nobody really broadly cares about it, but I know Tim Scott has also come out and endorsed Donald Trump. Point is, after this, it's over. Because this is the best numbers Nikki Haley has against Trump anywhere. And if Trump wins again, the momentum's only going to get more for him. The endorsements are only going to pile up more. And it's basically over when it comes to a traditional Nikki Haley victory. So I think tomorrow is basically the last stand for the Never Trumpers when it comes to traditionally winning this election. Now, I say traditionally, and the reason I say traditionally is because Trump has 91 charges against him. 91 charges. And if the man is declared a felon, or we get some big bombshell from one of those cases, or we get another person that flips, because we have a lot of old Trump staffers flipping, then we could maybe get some bombshell or some court update that makes either the Republican establishment change its tune because it doesn't know if Trump legitimately will be eligible for the presidency come November of this year, or that it has been such a significant hit to Trump's reputation that the Republicans have to choose another nominee. I remember early on when the Trump takes leaked back in 2015, Mike Pence actually, this is what was reported. This guy right here actually suggested that he take the nomination over from Donald Trump and run against Hillary. Now, that didn't go anywhere. And I don't know if we don't have any audio of it or video of it. But it does show that other people are looking for opportunities to step over the big man. And if he is declared unable to run, or something like that happens, which is never impossible when it comes to Donald Trump, even if he seems to be pretty largely scandal-proof, no one's invincible. And so there is a chance that Nikki Haley might stay in just so when, the election day comes around, the actual convention is held and they all have to count their delegates. There hasn't been a lot of delegate math on TV, but Trump and everybody else are still collecting delegates. She'll have delegates, and she'll be the only person there that has delegates who can be president, which obviously increases her leverage. So there could be a chance that Nikki Haley stays in just for that hope. But how long she stays in could have a detrimental effect on her and her image of electability if she's just losing again and again and again and again for the vague hope that Trump will be disqualified. And so she'll be the only one on the floor come the Republican convention with delegates. I mean, it's a possibility that it could happen, but it could be pretty negative on her image, especially if the most likely scenario, which is Trump is not disqualified from office to run for office, happens anyway. But Trump is not taking any chances, so he's decided to paint Nikki Haley as a foreigner. Ooh, look at this.
Now she says that you're using a nickname based on her given name, Nikkimada. You called her Nimbra in a post the other day. Why do you do that?
Well, I do that with a lot of people, like Hutchinson. I mean, he was polling at 0 for about 1 year, and I called him, rather than Asa, I called him Ada Hutchinson, and it just felt good to me. And with her, it's just something that came. It's a little bit of a takeoff on her name, her name, wherever she may come from. But it's just.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
It's a little bit of a takeoff. I look at her name.
Wherever she may come from. She's not only a foreigner. She's a mysterious foreigner. Ooh, is that Bangladesh? Is that India? Thailand? What's that name from? The answer is South Carolina.
Look at a lot of people. I do a lot of names for people, like Pocahontas. She said, my mother said I look like an Indian, so I started calling her Pocahontas. Some people say I'm very good at that, but I can't get into too many because many of those people that I named like that are Republicans, and we don't want to bring that up. But no, it's just it's a takeoff. I have fun with it. And sometimes, to tell you the truth, it's a very effective tool.
By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, but Donald Trump did retire. By the way, scary foreigner. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious the image he's trying to point here, the image he's trying to paint here. It's very, very subtle. Trump retired the Ron Desantis name. Did you guys see that? Trump Ron. I don't know if I can find it on Twitter. Oh, by the way, though, I just want to remind you guys that Nikki Haley is awful. Look at this.
Governor Haley, in 15 seconds, should voters in their 20s plan on having to work until they're 70?
They should plan on their retirement age being increased, yes. We're going to change it to reflect more of what life expectancy should be.
Well, there you go. Still a Republican. Still a Republican. Where is the Ron DeSantis Trump Ron nickname? Here it is.
Okay. He just said, will I be using the name Ron DeSanctimonious? I said, that name is officially retired.
The delivery, man. He is made for WWE. He's made for WWE. I will say, one last thing about this, though. The longer Nikki Haley does stay in the race, the better it is for Trump losing, because the more we get of Trump going after Nikki and fumbling around as he looks dazed and confused and trying to go after attacks. It's been happening with Trump more recently, which is going to be a problem for him if he's trying to go after Joe for the idea that he's like demented and he doesn't know what he's doing. Trump got Nikki Haley confused with Hillary Clinton 3 times and said that Nikki Haley had control of the Capitol security the day of January 6th. She wasn't elected that day. She wasn't in the Capitol that day. She was in South Carolina. She wasn't at all related to anything that happened. He just confused. And this is when we're talking about two presidents, a president, a former president running against each other, both in their 70s. This, it's not surprising. This is becoming the theme. Look at this.
Last night, Trump is at a rally.
Nikki Haley.
And he's going on and on mentioning...
By the way, this is a Biden ad, and this is why I say it's going to help Biden and the Democrats and people running against Trump, is if they can just point to all these clips from Republicans being like, dog, he's crazy, man. He's insane. He just run this in swing states, like on repeat.
Me multiple times as to why I didn't handle January 6th better.
Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people. They don't want to talk about that.
I wasn't in office then. They're saying he got confused.
You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. You have ID to buy a loaf of bread. What? What is? I'm driving over a road where it's almost all paper. And you can see paper. I know paper. I know cans. But all the time now we see whales washing up on shore because of the wind. Our veterans don't have cell phones, do they?
He got confused. He got confused and said he was running against Obama. He never ran against Obama.
And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won.
Obama he doesn't want to talk about it.
Well, you mean President Biden. So,
don't put our country at risk like this.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
I approve this. That fucking shit-eating grin. And the shades, man. This shit's funny.